Happy Friday, Orange Nation. This is Neil Adler dropping another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Hope everyone's had a great week. We got Syracuse football tonight against Colgate at the Dome, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, ACC Network. Syracuse is favored by 1.5 million points. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's like 37, something like that. Could even shifted one way or the other since last time I checked. But they're a massive favorite over the Raiders. They've beaten them like 17 straight times, dating back to, I don't know, like 1950. I don't expect this to be much of a game. But what I will say, and Fran Brown's made it very clear that he's not overlooking Colgate. He's got respect for their head coach, even though they've got Clemson coming up the week after on the road. He's locked in on Colgate, and that's the way it should be. But Coach Brown did drop some news on Thursday. A couple guys will be out or likely to be out, and they're key guys. Yassine Willis, the starting running back, sophomore. Frankly, I thought he should have gotten more touches last week in the UConn win, but he's obviously got something going on. And starting one of the starting safeties, Devin Grant, who's a senior, transferred in from Buffalo 2 years ago. Both expected to be out. Emmanuel Ross, I believe, hasn't played at all this year. And Fran said that he probably won't play either. And there could be other guys, and they had a couple guys before the season started that we knew would be out for a period of time. So it's football. There's injuries. We want these guys to have speedy recoveries and come back soon. Do I think that this changes my outlook? No, I think Syracuse is still going to crush Colgate. No disrespect to the Raiders. But we'll see more of Will Nixon, the redshirt senior, Jeff Nixon, the offensive coordinator's son, and and other running backs as well. And then from looking at the secondary, Grant didn't play. I don't believe he played at all, or he didn't play for very long in the UConn game. I'm drawing a blank here. I don't think he played at all. No, I don't think he played. He played in the Tennessee game. Um, but I mean, he's one of their starting safeties. They've got Deuce Chestnut, Barry Buxton will be starting. I assume, at least on the depth chart listed right below Devin Grant, was Cornell Perry, a junior. They've got some other strong defensive backs as well. Again, I don't think this is going to be super worrisome, but the longer term thing is Yassine Willis going to be out for an extended period of time? He's their number one running back. He had 3 touchdowns against Tennessee in the first game. We want Grant in there because he's a veteran, he's a senior, he's a leader of the defense. But they do have some talent in the secondary, both at the safety and the cornerback positions. Definitely a little younger at the cornerback, especially with Demetrius Samuels, a 17-year-old true freshman in there starting. But Fran Brown said he hopes to have these guys back for the Clemson game, which is the week after the 20th. Is it the 20th? Am I getting that right? 11, 12, 13? Yeah, 20th. So we'll see. It's something I just wanted to talk to you guys about. And again, I don't think it's going to have a big impact on this game. It's just more important for these guys to get healthy and have them in for the rest of the season. One thing I did notice from Fran from earlier in the week, he definitely was talking about Angeli needs to sometimes get rid of the ball a little quicker and their communication and all that. And he's had a couple picks and fumbles, but he definitely also said that the offensive line needs to step it up because he's been sacked, 8 or 9 times so far this season, 2 games. And there was one quote he said, "We can't have as many busts on the offensive line. We're getting our quarterback killed out there, and that's not cool." So, again, I don't think we knew the offensive line was going to be vastly made over. And there was guys like going after various positions, whether you're talking about the center spot or the left, right guard, and then the tackle spots. But I don't think the offensive line has been great. Is it like the biggest weakness on the team? I mean, it's tough to tell after 2 games. I think there's certainly some questions on the defensive side as well. But I do think hopefully that playing an FCS team, they should win handily, and hopefully the offensive line, hopefully the team in general just can, get some reps in, play well, just work on communication, the simple stuff, not to have penalties or, missed tackles in the open field. And, there's people saying, well, is Ricky Collins going to play? And I don't know. I mean, I guess if Syracuse is absolutely destroying Colgate, or God forbid if Steve Angeli gets hurt, and we don't obviously want that, could we see Ricky? I mean, Coach Brown said earlier this week that Steve's his guy, and he was questioning why reporters would even ask him if he would have brought Ricky in last Saturday, when Syracuse had to come back in the fourth quarter to beat UConn at the Dome. So I don't know. I unless it's like the game is so far, I think Angeli will be in there for the most part. So we'll see. Enjoy the game on Friday night. I'll obviously have coverage on it next week. And we're going to get into some recruiting stuff for these next couple segments. Hope that's cool with you. So the first one is, so it happened kind of quietly. I think it was over the weekend. So I apologize. I did do some basketball segments this week, so I hadn't talked about some of these commits, these verbal pledges yet. But Syracuse got a pledge I think it was last weekend. It was definitely a few days ago, from a 3-star running back named Shavane Anderson Jr., and he plays at William Penn High School in York, Pennsylvania. Good old York. I used to pass by York on my drive from the Baltimore area up to Syracuse when I went to school there, up off 83, and then I guess it was 81. Good old York. But anyway, so, 3-star pledge. Now, Syracuse does have at least one other running back in the 2026 class. It's Deontay Sheffy, who's also from Pennsylvania. He's from Harrisburg High School in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, I believe. And they've got 29 pledges now. And, it's like a solid class. They're not like going to be in the top 10 in the country, but last time I checked, they were hovering around number 25. And I mean, I have to do a little bit more research, but off the top of my head, that might be the highest ranked like team ranking, national ranking for a Syracuse class in the modern recruiting area. And what I mean by that is when, recruiting services like, it was Rivals, 24/7 Sports, ESPN, and then On3 came on later, when they had like really robust, comprehensive rankings available online. I'm not talking way back in the day. So like, dating back to like, I guess it was like the early 2000s, maybe a little bit earlier. But I am curious, so I'll have to go back and look. But I feel like if they ended up around 25, that might be the highest ever. Certainly the highest in a long time. I mean, I remember a few under Dino Babers, no disrespect, but they had classes like in the 60s and 70s. And they've got 5-star Calvin Russell, and they've got a few other 4-stars. They got a 4-star wide receiver from Virginia, Mari Guff, and then, multiple 4-stars from Florida, Cameron Wilson, Jarius Rogers, Javion Cooper, and there's other high 3-star guys that could end up being 4-star. It's just a nice looking class. So I don't know how much more they're going to get in that class. We've talked about Darius Hughes, who's committed to Florida State, but I know Syracuse remains in touch with him. So we'll see, but it's a nice looking class. And certainly it's kind of like on the basketball side too. If Syracuse football, even with this brutal schedule, they win some games against ranked opponents, even if they don't go 10-3 overall, if they play well and win some games, it's going to impress recruits. So, and obviously they got to hang on to Calvin Russell and some of these other folks in 2026 with the early signing being in December. But then it's just good for momentum for 2027 and 2028 and beyond. And I'm going to talk about 2027 in a second. But, again, the recruiting, you'd be hard pressed to nitpick and have some beef with Fran Brown and the staff and what they're doing at the prep level. And even in the transfer portal, obviously they didn't make big of a splash this offseason as last year when they got, Fidel Diggs and Kyle McCord and a bunch of other dudes. But they still got some nice pieces in the portal this year. They got Collins and Angeli and other guys. They just didn't have as a big of a class because Fran Brown even said we're going to focus on recruiting at the prep level and try and build up that way, which is interesting because especially, in basketball, but obviously it's apples to oranges, no pun intended, because the rosters are different. But in basketball, it seems like there's a big shift over to transfer portal recruiting versus recruiting at the prep level. But Fran's focused on the high school level and the portal, and their NIL is in good shape. So 2026 looks good, and we're gonna transition now to 2027. So in 2027, they're looking good. They got two recent commits. One is, let me make sure I get this right, 2027 athlete Tristan Hughes, Rocky River High School, Rocky River, Ohio. I do not know where Rocky River, Ohio is. And I've been to Toledo, I've been to Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland. And I don't think I've been to Dayton, but I don't know where Rocky River is. And then 2027 three-star athlete, Davion, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Davion Crumititai. Sorry, Davion. Sorry, dude. I butchered your last name. He plays at Rickards High School in Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, actually, which is right near Florida State, where Florida State's located. And I think actually Hughes recently got bumped up to 3 stars as well on 24/7 Sports. So this class is at 6 guys. They're all 3 stars. It's early with 2027. These guys are just juniors, starting their junior year. The contact period for this class didn't open until June 15th, meaning college coaches couldn't initiate direct, call them directly and text them and all that jazz until June 15th. So then they start getting calls and offers, and then they start going on visits and everything. So, but it's early. So they got 6 pledges, all 3 stars. Some of them could end up higher than that. And right now, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, I think this class is 4th nationally. And I did look earlier before we came on. I think the Rivals Industry Ranking, which is their composite, I think it has them at number 7. So it's a good start. Sorry, getting some water there. A lot can happen in, by the time these guys are looking to do their signings, which would be in December of their senior year, or the traditional signing period, which would be in the following February. So, but it's a good start, and it's just another indication of that, prospects, high school players, whether they're 3, 4, or 5 stars, they all just they're gravitating towards this program because of the culture that Fran Brown is building. And he's got integrity, and he's demanding, and he's no BS, but he's also got a big heart, and he's community oriented. He wants them to be awesome adults and men and husbands and fathers down. It's the real deal. He's awesome. He really is. I hope he sticks around for a while. So like I said, they're off to a great start in 2027. And speaking of 2027, we're gonna wrap up here with one more recruiting nugget for you. I hope you all like recruiting. I like talking about recruiting. I don't want to ignore Syracuse football and basketball, the programs themselves, and obviously their games and covering the games and talking about play. But I'm really into recruiting, and I have contacts and sources. So drop me a line. Tell me if hopefully you like recruiting stuff, because I got stuff there as well. So definitely on football and absolutely on basketball. I'll talk to a lot of people about basketball recruiting stuff. So Syracuse is going to get a game day visit from a 4-star wide receiver in the 2027 class. He's from the Pittsburgh area. Pittsburgh, man. Go to Pittsburgh and get a Primanti Brothers sandwich. Those things are dope. They're big and sloppy, but they're awesome. Javion Robinson. So he's, like I said, a 4-star wide receiver in the 2027 class. He's a top 100 national prospect. He put on his X page a bunch of game day visits he's going to do this fall. And they are, where are they? Rutgers, Miami, Penn State, Pittsburgh, West Virginia, and Wisconsin, and Syracuse. He's going to go to Syracuse on Saturday, November 29th, home finale against Boston College. The regular season finale against Boston College, and it's at home at the Dome. And if Syracuse loses that game, I'm going to be really pissed off, because they should not have lost that game to Boston College last year, and who knows if that's a game they need for a bowl eligibility or to get into a better bowl or whatever. They just better not lose. And so, that's cool. And he goes to, it's McKeesport Area Senior High School in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, which I have not heard of, but I looked it up, and it is a close-in suburb of Pittsburgh. So, okay, cool. And actually, Robinson was in the house at the Dome last late November, when Syracuse, as we all know, beat Miami in the regular season finale, which was one of the coolest, and I date back to, I went to Syracuse from 96 to 2000. So, and I was a fan of the team for way earlier than that. So I've seen a lot of cool games. That was one of the coolest football games I've ever watched. Just so fun. Not fun in the first half, but it was fun overall. So anyway, I'll be keeping an eye out for other visitors, whether it's for that game or others. They'll have a lot. They had a lot this past weekend for UConn, whether it's commits or recruiting targets, and we'll keep tabs on that. But in terms of Robinson, offer sheet includes teams like Penn State, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Syracuse, UConn, West Virginia, Wisconsin. He was offered by Syracuse last November. Again, 24/7 Sports has him at 100 nationally, like top 100 overall, not at wide, top 100 overall. 15 at wide receiver. Some of the other places have him a little further down, but he's still the point is he's a really good wide receiver in the 2027 class, the junior class. Seems interested in Syracuse. It'll be at least his second visit there. And like I mentioned, Syracuse is up to 6 pledges in this class, top 10 according to several recruiting services. Another guy that I've talked about that we want to keep tabs on, 2027 wide receiver Nick Lanier. He's a 5-star wide receiver. Did I say 5 or 4? He is 5. I'll tell you, not enough coffee. He's a 5-star, and he's also a top 25 national prospect, like overall prospect. So that's really high up there. And he plays at Miami Northwestern Senior High School, where Calvin Russell, the Syracuse commit, plays. He said he's likely to visit Syracuse sometime this fall. As I think I mentioned on Syracuse Central, like maybe last week, there are a couple of predictions for Lanier to commit to Miami, which is a hometown team. Those predictions come and go, ebb and flow. So, we'll keep tabs, but we'll see how that goes. But, the bottom line is Syracuse is going after some really highly ranked dudes in these different classes. And certainly, continue to look at 2028 and 2029. Those are further out. And, 2028 sophomores, 29s are just true freshmen in high school. And you don't have recruiting rankings necessarily for all these classes, or at least not as expansive right now. But they're going heavy after some of those dudes as well. So it's fun. So like I said, with both basketball and football, man, they just they got to win some on the field and just keep their momentum going, because they got really strong momentum with the football program. Basketball's taken a hit in recent years because of their record on the court, but I still think their recruiting this past year was good, both portal and prep. And so just win some games and good things will happen. But hopefully you all enjoy the game tonight. Syracuse football, Colgate at the Dome. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, ACC Network. I'll be watching, I'll be tweeting, and Syracuse will win. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll be back on Monday to talk about, I assume I'll be talking about on Monday Syracuse football and what happened over the weekend. And then we'll get more into basketball and recruiting in both sports. And drop me comments, good or bad. I appreciate you tuning in. This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Have an awesome, awesome Blossom weekend, friends. Take care.